The rain pounded against the windows of the Calderón Global skyscraper as dozens of employees rushed inside, some shaking off their umbrellas, others anxiously checking their phones. It was Monday, the least loved day by everyone, but especially by the workers on the 34th floor, the development department, led by one of the most feared bosses in the entire company, Mauro Figueroa. There, the work culture had two unwritten rules. Appearances were everything, and those below never spoke to those above, unless they were spoken to first, and that morning that rigid structure was about to be tested without anyone suspecting it. Among the crowd arrived a young woman in a worn beige coat, her hair tied back simply, and glasses that kept sliding down her nose. She held a folder against her chest, careful not to trip. Her name was Clara Villalobos. She was 28, held a degree in economics, had a brilliant mind, and a huge problem. She was completely invisible to most people who worked there. For 3 weeks, she had been doing minor tasks as a temporary assistant, filing documents, organizing old boxes, bringing coffee, even though her contract said she was a junior analyst. No one had read it. No one cared. Clara reached the elevator, but 3 employees cut in front of her and closed the door in her face without even looking at her. She took a deep breath, held back her discomfort, and waited for the next one. And while going up, she thought about how absurd everything was. If only they knew who she really was. But no, they couldn't. She herself still hadn't fully processed it. 3 weeks earlier, before starting as an employee, she had received news that changed her life. Her maternal grandfather, Armando Calderón, founder of the company and one of the richest men in the country, had died. Her mother's family had cut ties with him years ago. It had been a tightly kept secret. Her mother had abandoned the Calderón surname after a dispute she never wanted to explain. Clara only discovered the truth when she received a letter from the old man's legal team informing her that he had named her the sole heir to all his shares. But before taking the presidency, she had to fulfill one condition: work there as a regular employee for 1 month without revealing her identity. To understand the kind of company you're going to lead, the letter said. The elevator doors opened on the 34th floor. The atmosphere was tense, as always. Mauro paced back and forth, barking orders in his harsh voice. The sales report. The report, people. Why do I have to repeat everything? He growled. Clara slipped past him discreetly, almost hugging the wall. You, the new one. Mauro pointed at her without even looking. Did you already sort the storage files? Yes, sir. I finished first thing this morning. Clara replied. Then do it again. It's probably done wrong, he snapped. She nodded, even though she knew she had organized it perfectly. The rest of the team barely looked at her, some with condescension, others with disdain. To them, she was just another unimportant temp. They didn't know she was walking through every corner of the company to understand how employees were treated, what abuses were hidden behind the perfect facade, and what kind of leaders were running the place. By mid-morning, Clara went down to the storage room to check boxes. There she found the only person who treated her kindly, Emilio, a young IT technician who often came down to pick up spare parts. Hi, Clara, he smiled. You look tired, a little. She returned the smile, but I'll survive. If you need help, tell me. I know Mauro makes you do the work of 3 people. Thanks, Emilio. You're one of the few who talks to me like I actually exist. He laughed softly. Sometimes people forget we're all human. Those words stayed in Clara's mind. Hours later, when she returned to the 34th floor, she heard several employees gathered in a group. Did you hear the news? One said, the board will announce the new owner today. They say it's someone from abroad, answered another, or some investor who will fire half the building, added a nervous woman. Clara tightened her grip on the folder in her hands. The truth would come out in just a few hours. The day continued with orders, scolding, and absurd tasks assigned by Mauro. Just before noon, he called her again. You, come here. I need you to take these documents to the interim president, and don't take long." "Yes, sir," Clara said, taking the folder. As she descended to the executive floor, her stomach knotted. The interim president, Don Lazaro, did know who she was. He was one of the few people present when she read her grandfather's will. He was also the only one aware of the condition. When she entered his office, he looked up with a warm smile. "Clara, right on time. Are you ready for today?" She took a deep breath. "I don't know if ready, but prepared. I never imagined the company treated its employees like this." "Your grandfather knew. That's why he wanted you to see it for yourself. And he was right," she admitted. "Today many things will become clear." At 4 in the afternoon, everyone was summoned to the building's grand auditorium. It was strange. No one remembered a mandatory meeting for all staff. More than 1,000 employees took their seats. Clara sat at the back, as always, trying to go unnoticed one last time. Lazaro appeared on stage and walked slowly to the podium. "Good afternoon. Today we are here to officially announce the new owner of Calderón Global, according to the founder's legal instructions," he said, causing immediate murmurs. Clara looked at her hands resting tensely on her lap. She knew this would be the moment when she went from invisible to impossible to ignore. "The new owner," Lazaro continued, "has been among you for weeks, working beside you, observing, learning, being treated like one of you, or rather, like many of you are treated every day." The murmurs intensified, and now, with pride, I announce that Miss Clara Villalobos Calderón is the rightful heir and president of Calderón Global. A heavy silence fell over the room. Faces turned toward her all at once, some shocked, others confused. A few simply didn't believe it. Clara stood, her heart raced as she walked toward the stage. Every step felt like it weighed a ton. The young woman nobody noticed, who carried coffee and sorted boxes, was now walking as the leader of a multimillion-dollar corporation. Morrow, seated in the front row, opened his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. He tried to stand to speak, but no words came out. When Clara reached the podium, she took a deep breath and began. "During these weeks, no one knew who I was, and funny enough, it was the time I learned the most in my life. I saw how employees are treated based on their rank. I saw respect, but above all, I saw abuse, indifference, and fear." Several managers squirmed in their seats. "My grandfather wanted me to know the company from the bottom up, and today I understand why. You can't lead something you don't understand, and you can't change what you don't see." She paused, looking toward Emilio, who watched her with pride. "Starting today, things will be different, and those who humiliate, exploit, or belittle others may consider this their final warning." The room erupted in applause that filled the air. Lower, bank employees celebrated with genuine hope. Some cried, others simply smiled at last. Morrow tried to speak to her when she stepped down from the stage. Ma'am, President, I think there was a misunderstanding these weeks." Clara looked at him calmly. "There was no misunderstanding, Mr. Figueroa. There were behaviors, and actions have consequences." He turned pale. At the end of the day, in her new office, Clara looked out at the illuminated city. Emilio knocked timidly on the door. "May I come in?" "Of course," she smiled. "You don't have to be formal with me. I wanted to congratulate you." "President, thank you," she said warmly, "and thank you for being one of the few who treated me with humanity from the beginning." He lowered his gaze, blushing. "I didn't know who you were. That's the best part." She replied, "You treated me well because you wanted to, not because you expected something." Emilio smiled, and for the first time, Clara felt she could begin this new chapter with someone she could trust. She looked at the city again. She had been ignored, underestimated, humiliated, but now everyone knew who she was, and above all, who she was destined to become. Not just the new owner of a billion-dollar company, but the leader who would change its story forever.